The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Well, hello. I'm holding up a book which reads How to Control Your Emotions. This program is called How to Control Your Negative Emotions. I'll change the title next time I print the book. But you do need to control your emotions, and for a very good reason. Because emotions affect the way you think and the way you believe. Anybody believe that? Anybody doubt that? Well, let me show you the dynamics of this, and maybe we can get some questions going. And because everybody has crises of faith or doubt. Everybody has that. Everybody's plagued by little dark doubts and make them do the wrong. You know, everybody has one thought about something and then they end up doing the other one, just in case the first one was wrong and the first one was right. You know what I mean? Who understands what I just said? Good. All right. Now, and that's why you make terrible mistakes, because emotion pulls on you, on your consciousness, and it pulls you into thinking. So that the end result is that you start to make decisions out of the wrong side of your thinking process. Let's describe the process, and then maybe we can take it from there. You react, you feel, you think. Now, something has to intimidate you. We call that a temptation. Behind the temptation there's a will. Anybody who intimidates you is willful. And the reason why they intimidate you is because they want to put their ideas or their will to displace whatever will you have in you. They have to get between you and what you know is right. Now, human beings differ from animals in that we have a conscience. Or, when we're into the conscience, it's consciousness. When we're separated from the conscience, or the consciousness, we're in conflict with consciousness, we call it conscience. Is that too difficult? In other words, there's a space inside you. And when you're lost in your thoughts, then you think from the dark side. And the spirit of the dark side enters through emotionality. That anybody who wants to control you will make you first emotional. And when you become emotional, your consciousness, you lose your center, the ground of your being. You come out of this inner space where you know what's right. You're born with it. You're born with a sense. Don't let anybody confuse you that right and wrong is something other people teach you. It can end up that way if you're not careful, so that you become a mechanical robot. You know, that you have other people's values and you make decisions according to those implanted values. Very rigid and mechanical. It won't stand you in very good stead in life. I'm saying there's a very delicate spirit of understanding things which is within you in a wordless way. And that dimension is a kind of knowledge, and it's a kind of knowledge that isn't with words, it isn't thinking. And you have to get into this world where there's no thinking. When you're into this world where there's no thinking, you can see yourself thinking. This may be kind of strange to some people, but some people have never known this other world. They can't see themselves thinking. For instance, I can watch my television set in two ways. I can sit across the room and watch the images on the screens and follow that plot. Interesting, but not part of it. And when there's an exciting thing comes, a love scene or a violent scene, my heart doesn't beat or I don't get passionate. I'm not involved with that. I'm standing across the room just watching that. not being part of it, it being part of me. But on the other hand, like little children, a lot of people, suddenly they're no longer in the room. They're inside the set. And their heart starts getting beating, and you get all emotional, like a nightmare. When you're inside your thoughts, you're not objective to your thoughts. And as you grow older through life, especially when you're guilty, you don't like to stand in this space where you feel guilty and you know the truth. You live more and more in your thoughts, where you're more comfortable. You become part of the television set. You lose yourself in the screen, in the feelings of the moment, in the play. You identify with the actors. You identify with your own flesh. And then you forget to be aware. You exist, but not as a human being, but as a person lost in flesh and feeling. And in that sense, in that world, you have thinking, and you have the thinking which comes from reaction. See? And the thinking comes out of the feeling from the reaction. So you react, you feel, you think. And the thinking that comes into your mind is not your thinking. But you cannot see that it's not your thinking. That thinking tends to make anything, that kind of thinking, the will of the other person who intimidates you. Are you following this? Everybody? See, that the person, the kind of thinking that you're involved with, you can't oppose it. Yes.
I like what you said.
Just 1 second, we're just going to come right with you.
I like what you said. Are you the thinker or are you the servant of your thought? I thought
Yeah.
that was very good.
Yeah, you're not your thinking, you're the thinker. You're supposed to be the thinker. And the thinker observes the thinking. And as long as you can observe the thinking, then you have a light, another source to observe with. There's 3 of you. See, me, myself, and I. See what I'm saying is that I'm the observer. Let's put it this way. We try to make it very simple. I know I tend to go very fast. My eye is made out of basically plants and animals, but all that comes from the sunlight. The sun shines in the sky and gives life to all the plants and the animals and the creatures on the earth. And I eat these animals and it becomes me, and I have the eye. It all comes out, all made out of the sunlight. So the sun, which in a sense, for the purpose of argument, which has created everything, gives me the eye and also the light to see by. So the light shines on objects, and I see by the light, my eye sees those objects by reflected light of the sun. I never look at the sun. If I looked at the sun, my eyes would burn out. So there's the sun, there's my eye, and I look at the object reflected. Now inside your body, you have a spiritual self. And the soul is the spiritual eye. It's a perception. We see, but we also perceive. Right? In other words, we're not just only looking with the flesh eye of the beast, with the eye of the sun. We're now looking deeper into things. And especially in people, we see their motives. We see another source, another intelligence, another will moving up through them. Only if you're objective. Only if you're objective do you have that light that reflects on those dark images in people, those wills in people, and gives you insight to what's going on in their mind, their motives for you. And then, only then, when you have that objectiveness, when you're standing in this space within yourself, do you have the strength to oppose. It's like alligators. If you want to fight an alligator, you don't jump in the river. You fight from your own turf. You lasso them. You stand on the bank and you pull the alligator out of the water onto your ground. You don't jump into the water with them if you can help it. They know best how to. It's the same with you. You do not fight evil, the wills of others, from their dimension. Because there are 2 types of people who live in their unconscious, in their intellectual, imaginary dream mind. The willful and the willless. Because, let's see if I can say it another way. I think I'm coming across to you, there's another way of seeing things, another way of believing. there is a presence. There is a sensing. You have senses of your body, and there is a presence, a will on the other side of those senses, whether it's in people or whether it's just in the ether. There's a will. There's an ever-present something that is malevolent. And even little children, if they're not careful, you must watch little children very carefully, because if you leave them alone, something will jump into the child, psychically assault them. Something will say to a kid, pick up that stone and beat that kid's brains out. And they'll do it. Some kids may not. They'll see the idea and they say, where'd that come from? It scares them. Another kid who is not that aware, who's been violated to the point where he's lost that awareness, most kids have, he may pick up that brick and hit a kid and not feel any remorse. So you have two sides. Now, you have a presence of mind, and a presence apart from the presence of mind. In other words, any time that you can be seduced away from this inner objective state of consciousness where you know all things for sure, and you have the strength to resist all things which is not of the will that you were born with, but born of some other malevolent influence. As long as you're standing in this objective state, and you know the rules, don't get angry, don't get upset, don't overreact, don't fall for love, don't fall for flattery. As long as you can stay there, in this objective state, nothing can hurt you. You'll always have faith, and you'll always move and have your being by the right source. But remember what I said a few moments ago, there are forces that want to displace that and create a heaven on earth, a kingdom if you like. And of course evil, whatever that is, it has no creative force of its own. It has to steal, it has to borrow, it has to take over the creations of God and make them slaves in His service to do His will on earth as it is in Hades. There are two forces at work. One from within, a presence that constantly impresses itself upon you if you are there to receive it. But if you're away from it, the mind receives impressions from the outside that you think to be your own thoughts. And these forces are so strong that they can make you doubt what's right, doubt what you know, and think that it's like a psychic jujitsu. If somebody can make you doubt what's right, what happens is that you fall. And you tend to believe that which has made you doubt. Remember, whatever can make you doubt what you know is a belief system, isn't it? You're believing in that person. So that now your thinking becomes dark. But once you start to believe like this, once you start to doubt yourself, you will always doubt yourself. The forces of doubt are always trying to displace the will of the Creator and become the prime moving force themselves. And this is how it works. It first works on emotions, trying to upset you. We all come into the world, even though we know what's right, we are subject to the external influences. That's why we need fathers and mothers who are themselves in the light, who teach us the ways of life and light and truth. Trouble is, they don't have the way themselves. They're victims of it themselves. So when you are born in an emotional environment. You come into a crazy mother and a weak father or a violent father. You come into the world, you go to school and there's pressures. Everywhere there's pressures. You're living in a fallen state. You come into the world in a fallen state. But the whole purpose of life is to find a higher level of awareness. You suffer from living in a fallen state. You make silly mistakes. You associate with the wrong people. Because in the beginning, the forces which you are subject to as a child, naturally subject to, the lineage of original sin. You're naturally subject to those things without teaching, without proper instruction. You are naturally subject to those things. So therefore the pressures and your reaction to them in your early formative stage violate you very early on in life, so that you tend to give into the crowd, to give into to pressures, to peer pressures, to mother, to father, to whatever makes you feel good. because the condition of living not according to faith but according to doubt, according to feeling and pressure and sensation and imagination and self-deception and deception. The feeling is terrible. So you tend then to have a terrible conflict about yourself. And it's the conflict for some people. Some people are driven to drugs to get rid of the awareness. The awareness is the good part. See, when you feel guilty, you've got conscience. And a conscience is the difference between where you are, where you might have been had you not responded to the pressures, had you not doubted yourself. The conscience is a good thing. And after a while, some people get the idea, yes, the conscience may not be such a bad thing. I want to go that direction. I want to stop taking drugs and looking for reassurances, and there's something wrong with the way I live. The minute you start to realize there's something wrong with the way you live, you start to seek that level of awareness that you lost in your early stages through emotion. And I find a lot of people without benefit of Roy Masters discover this on their own. And I'm very happy to say this, because I was worried there because I thought I was the only one that knew it. And I find a lot of people through great suffering have learned to have an equilibrium, a calmness, to learn not to be angry and resentful and hostile so as to have faith in themselves. You see? So they learn then to be philosophical, not to be ambitious, not to be resentful. They've learned their lesson mostly through being drunk and alcoholic and having a broken life. Finally, for some reason, their heart never being satisfied with any answer, always looking for this lost faith, this missing something in themselves. Finally, some of them reach high ground. And of course, a lot of you are on the way already, but I want to help you to get there a little quicker because there may not be much time left. Yes, we're going to take go ahead. Oh, right here, excuse me.
You've moved very quickly.
I'm sorry about that.
Well, that's
Slow
fine.
me down.
You started out with thinker and thought. You went through willful and will-less.
Yes.
You wound up with conscience and consciousness.
Yes.
You gave us several illustrations involving particularly the television set.
Yes.
And how we view that. But what I would like to have you do is put the three segments that I just mentioned, if you can, together in a first-person experience.
Okay.
Particularly between a husband and wife, if you can.
Well, it would be for any given situation, all right, because I'd rather keep it away from husband and wife. Otherwise, if I get into husband and wife, I won't stop. But I'll try to answer your question because it's a good question. And if I miss one of those three out, just remind me and I'll fit it back in again. Okay? You mentioned the first one, will-less or conscience television set, will-less and willful.
The first one was your thought and thinker.
Thought
or
and
thinker and thought.
Let's take that first because it's where it begins. The thoughts are not the thinker. If the thinker thinks he's the thought, he's in trouble. Is that too fast? He has to be objective to thinking, to know, because in the interiors of your mind, that if you're involved with the television, for example, you become so involved. Let's make it not television. Let's say it's a nightmare. When you're sleeping, and you sink so deeply into your thoughts that the dream goes beyond the dream. It becomes so immersed in the dream that it becomes a nightmare. You think that's reality, and that's reality only because you have no higher reality. You're not awake to see that it's not reality. You need another reality to show you that's not reality. So in your sleep, you are in the world, the imagination world of Alice Through the Looking Glass. You think that's the reality and you're controlled. Your emotions are set on fire. You see demons coming at you and your heart beats. And you instead of waking up, which is the cure, you see doors opening, and the doors open and you go through those doors and there's something even more horrible behind that door. So you run and find solutions in your dreams that are not solutions at all, but are greater problems, greater depths of despair. All it would take for a person is to come out of the TV set or wake up. And when you wake up, immediately something changes. The light, which is the truth, wordless, shows you that's just a dream. And once you see that's a dream, by that light, your faith, your trust goes into the light and out of the dream world. You see that it's a dream and it can't hurt you, just pictures. But it's the light that's lifted you out. It's called being awake.
Well, I didn't
Aware.
hear you use the word objectivity in that, and
Ah.
it sounds like what you're describing.
Yes, it's objectivity. That's why it's very important to learn to meditate with my technique, because most people are lost in their thoughts. And every time they become upset, they are more deeply involved in their thoughts. And the average person walks down the street thinking to himself in the day, he can't even see his friend as he walks by him. He's not aware. And when a person lives in this state of mind, he doesn't realize that other forces, other wills, are operating through him. And always these forces or wills or intelligences operating through him unawares, he takes to be his own behavior and defends it. Have you ever seen people get angry and do things wrong and then defend it? Try to tell a person who's angry when he's doing something dumb that he defends it, very defensive. We tend to defend it as if it was our own idea. A person who's hypnotized. I do this very often on my lectures and demonstrations. You hypnotize a person, my will becomes that will operates in the same space as the person himself. Now you make him do something. And he's fully awake. Hypnosis is not a state of being asleep, just an altered state of consciousness. Instead of being in the space where I was describing he ought to be, where he is observing the thought, and he's not part of his thinking, he's now part of his thinking. And because he is, my suggestions, even though they're spoken to him, they become his. So you can make him do something stupid, like change his shoes. Left shoe on the right foot, right shoe on the left foot. Why did you do it? Well, I always wanted to try it. Don't you remember me telling you? Yes, I remember you telling me that. Well, why did you do it? Well, I feel uncomfortable that way. They defend. It's a strange thing that not all human beings are awake. That Gurdjieff says that we walk around in a sleep state, and that we need self-examination, and that we need to be objective, and that we need to reach a higher state of consciousness so we can observe our behavior. Because when we start to observe our behavior, we begin to see that our behavior is coming from another place, that we've been defending this behavior. And as long as what does this defense means? It means that you're defending it against the reality from which reality you should be functioning. You're only functioning from two places: the reality in an objective state, which is truth, or failing that, lost in your thoughts, you are operating from another level of, well, you're operating, another will is operating you, which you take to be your own. Very, very few people in this world have wills of their own. Their wills are other people's wills. Their opinions are other people's opinions. See? But they don't know that. I've seen that in my wife. I've seen that she was so emotionally involved with me at one time, see, that I would tell her something and then she'd tell it to me back as though it originated from her. She starts to teach me something. I said, well, I just told you that. And then she starts to feel superior to me, like she's discovered something I didn't know. And this is typical when you find people going to church. They even want to teach the preacher sometimes, as though they originated it. They want to start preaching to the preacher. So, am I making my point? So therefore, all the tragedy on this earth, all the suffering and all the misery that we see around us, the sickness and disease, is the result of not us living through faith, but protecting or defending our behavior, defending another will operating through us. Sometimes this will is very obvious, like suggestions, like from a mother. You'll grow up to be like your bum like your father. Very direct suggestion. Sometimes the suggestions by reacting to someone and seeing your mother dying from heart attack and then thinking that you will. Because you tend to reach out and become impressed by things that happen to you, and they form certain fears and doubts which you then tend to act out unconsciously and cannot stop. See? Sometimes they're sub-subliminal, that you don't even see in yourself. They're like the kid who's alone in a room, and something says to him, pick up a brick and hit that kid on the head. It doesn't know where it comes from. Sometimes the presence that is around you casts itself into you and gives you strange ideas. All of us have had strange ideas walking down the street. Throw yourself off the bridge. Where the hell did that come from? See? Kill your baby. Where did that come from? See, you've got to understand that there are two forces. And that if you struggle against, let's say you see that it's wrong, and you see that you don't want to throw yourself off the bridge, but if you get angry and struggle against the suggestion, strange thing happens, you start to give power to it. So the more angry you get at yourself or at the idea, the stronger the idea comes. And the only way that you can relieve the pressure of that is to do it. And then all of a sudden it's laughing at you. And you may even hear voices. Because the more you give in to your dark side, and the more it plays with you, and the more you react to it and give in to it, the more it becomes you. And pretty soon there's less of the real you and more of the false you. So, sorry I didn't give you all a chance to talk, but maybe in our second segment we can... There's a lot about this in my book, How to Control Your Emotions. And it's $10 if you want to write. And the address has been on the screen a lot of times. So tomorrow night we're going to talk about this some more. I wonder how many questions you have. You have many questions? I'm sure you do. You? Lots and lots of questions, I hope? Okay, well, let's save the questions for the next segment, all right? And suggest that people listen to my radio program and write to us, especially get this book, How to Control Your Emotions. We have cassettes and tape cassettes to teach you how to attain this objective state so that you can live more from what you know is right and learn to deal with the forces of doubt. One of the main things this book will teach you is not to be emotional, because when you get emotional, you doubt. And when you get doubtful, you get emotional. And the more angry you get at yourself, the more you doubt, and then you end up giving in to the wrong side. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be talking to you in our next program.